I don't know how many people believe in things like this, but the longer I live, the more I start to believe that there are some universal forces. I feel like I had nostalgia for Bulgaria even before I knew what Bulgaria was. I always felt like a foreigner. Wherever I was a foreigner. I was searching for some kind of freedom, a certain lifestyle that I just couldn't find. I traveled all over Europe. I was in America. I spent some time in Ireland, all over Europe, England, up north, everywhere. And I couldn't find it until I ended up here, and here suddenly everything just fit together like a puzzle piece falling into place.
It's not bad. It's actually very strong tea.
My mother and father are Bulgarians. They lived in Bulgaria during communism. And they fled to Greece because they didn't like it. They escaped to Greece, and that's where I was born, in Athens. I lived there for 6 years before my family and I moved to England, because my mother was a midwife. And actually that's where she was offered a job in England. So we moved to a small town near London, there in London, and after a few moves we settled, right? When we were in England, but we've always been around London, more or less around London and Windsor, and I lived there for 15 years. When I arrived in England, I started getting involved with horses. Neither my mother nor my father nor any of my grandparents, no one in our family has ever been involved with horses, especially as a way of life. My mother doesn't like them at all. She's actually afraid of them, and my father isn't really into extreme sports. But for me, they got a little movie from the library back then, Spirit, the animated film. Well, that little movie was all I knew back then. Just the horse, the little saddle, the little branches, the quantity, nothing but little horses. I used to play horses with my dad. I only had toy horses, I didn't have any dolls at home, and that's how it all started. That's basically how my life began. In England, it's hard to be involved with horses because it's very expensive. We didn't have much money, you know. My mom supported me completely. She gave everything she had to support me as much as she could, and I went. But at first, I only took lessons once a week. For about 6 or 7 years, I only took lessons once a week. That's what we could afford, so that's what I did. At the stable where I was, they would take on kids to work for them. So on Saturdays and Sundays, I'd get up early, ride my bike to the stable, and work in exchange for a lesson. You work all day, do heavy lifting, lead the horses back and forth, muck out, whatever needs to be done. And in return, you get one free lesson. That's actually how I got started. That's when I started getting seriously involved with horses, and my mom and dad realized that I clearly wasn't going to give up at that point. And from then on, I started going to different stables. For about 2 years, I was at one, then at another, then another, and another. I went everywhere with the goal of working in exchange for being taught, for being allowed to ride better horses, to learn from Maya, to be taught more interesting things. Eventually, there came a moment when my mom and dad could finally afford to let me have my own horse. And so I got myself a mare who was very skittish, very wild, because over there, you know, the nice, calm, gentle horses are very, very, very expensive. You can only get something a bit crazy, and that's how I learned. With a lot of falling, a lot of crying, a lot of tears, and a lot of blood. Everywhere something hurts. I have scars all over, holes from, and not from these years, but from before when I was 12 or 13 or 15, Elena. I've had holes, and I never told my mom this story, so sorry if you're watching, Mom. Once I got a stone stuck in my knee, but if I had shown it to my mom, it would have become a big problem, so I didn't show her. I dug the stone out of my knee myself, and now there's still a hole there. In England, it was hard because I was a foreigner and it was difficult for me, and ever since I started working, I haven't stopped. Since I was 12, I worked every Saturday and Sunday, worked all through school. I finished school, slept, and then after school I would go to the horses and train. Or on Saturdays and Sundays I worked, because I worked with horses for a very long time. They have a tremendous amount of experience. I started working with world-renowned trainers, with people at the very highest level, right? I would train their horses at home and they would go and compete at the Olympics. On Saturday and Sunday, they would go to the Olympics, and on Monday, I would ride the horse in the arena. So I worked with the best people in the world, and still something didn't feel quite right in my soul. I had the feeling that there was something more. So I started looking into more alternative ways of viewing horses and the psychology of horses, because the modern way, the way we look at and train horses, these world-famous animals, is more or less, there's a lot of fear involved. Like I said, there's a rush. By the time a horse is 4 years old, it already has to be jumping 1.20 meters, for example, so that at 5 it can jump 1.30 meters. And by 6, it's already on its way to European competitions, so that by the time it's 8, it can compete at the World Championships. This is a terribly rushed process. They hurry through everything and put a lot of psychological and physical strain on the animals. And then there's the feeding, stuffing them with stimulants and sugar. There are special feeds that are just protein and sugar, but that's not natural for the animal and they get sick a lot. That really hurt me. It started to eat away at me inside, realizing that the situation wasn't right. I could even say it better in English. A bundle.
You now got a little Barno.
Yeah, it's already...
You've even switched back to Bulgarian, Zina.
I was really sick. I was bedridden for 3 weeks in the woods. And at that moment, I decided to quit, in such an atmosphere where everyone is competing against each other, and they didn't really treat each other very well, nor did they treat the animals well. No one seemed to me to be truly happy there. They were at the top, and yet no one was happy. Neither the horses nor the people. Well, maybe if you win, it's fine, but out of 300 people competing, only the one who wins is happy. And even those who win, once they start winning a lot, it doesn't really impress them anymore.
So it's more business than sport.
Yes, they treated it like a business, because it really is a business.
Could you live a high-quality life in England as a foreign woman, doing what you were doing, and still feel truly satisfied?
They just have a lot of experience and make good money. Good money, yes, but I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. My soul was hurting, and that's how I reached the point where I got so sick inside, my whole being became ill. I decided I wanted to break away from the sport, from the horses, and I bought myself a van. I took an old construction van and turned it into a camper all by myself. I had a bed, a kitchen, little lights. It had heating, everything I needed, and I set off to travel around Europe. I went here and there, sometimes to competitions if I needed money, but I was really traveling, seriously traveling. I traveled all over Europe, but it started to get a bit boring, and my mom said, "Why don't you go to Bulgaria?" And to me, Bulgaria seemed like some kind of third world country. I'd only been here once or twice just to visit, and my mom was always complaining. On top of that, I had occasionally seen some news at my parents' place. I don't watch TV, but they had TVs, and whenever I saw something about Bulgaria, it was always nonsense, always bad things. So I assumed Bulgaria was, like Africa. No roads, no proper hospitals, nothing basically. I had no idea what was actually here, and I never imagined I would ever come here. And I ended up there through acquaintances, one person to another, at a horse riding base. In Sofia, where I went and trained people and horses, it was supposed to be just for the summer. But I don't know. First, I really liked Bulgaria, and second, it was as if the universe just told me, "Here, this is your place. Welcome, now stay." My van broke down and they couldn't fix it, so I couldn't leave. I found myself a boyfriend. It was, an interesting relationship. So I found this boyfriend, but when I left that summer job, things with him were uncertain. We weren't really sure what to do, what steps to take. A very good friend of mine who helped us a lot back then and whom I still support offered us one of his houses to live in for the winter up in the mountains. He's a really good person. However, it turned out that this house was in much worse condition than we thought. There was barely any electricity, no water, holes in the ceiling, in the walls, basically everywhere. And this was up in the mountains, in winter, with snow and cold. Everything. But that was a moment in my life when I truly felt the freedom that Bulgaria offers, which, as it turned out, was what I had been searching for my whole life. Freedom. People, relationships, and nature. These were things I thought I was crazy for seeking. I was in the European world, you know, the developed European world, and I felt dead inside. I felt drained. I felt bad. As if, really, is this what life is? Are we supposed to just work hard, struggle, poison ourselves, and never be satisfied? Then I came to Bulgaria, and life here is hard, but people are genuine.
But how did you actually end up going from the mountains to the sea, and specifically to Atopol?
Well, back then, as I think I mentioned, I was with a boyfriend, but the relationship was very difficult. Well, he was originally from here, and one time he brought me here for a short vacation just for 2 days. The moment I set foot in this little town and saw its beauty, somehow, the instant I felt its energy, I realized that I actually fit here, like a puzzle piece falling right into place, exactly where I was meant to be. I'm here because just like every child dreams of becoming a princess or an astronaut, to have my own horses, a riding base by the sea, to watch them graze freely, to see them happy and content, to work for myself and somehow to share the magic with people, this was a forgotten dream. The moment I came to Atopol, I realized this is it. This is the place. The universe brought me here, and here I will stop moving, I will stop constantly traveling, and here I will find my place. The people here are genuine, though a bit worn down. Not everyone is very happy, but they are natural, authentic. They have freedom, a human connection with everything around them. And I realized that, in fact, what happened with the van and everything else was some kind of universal guidance, because my soul had started to, I was detached from it all, and I simply realized that in Bulgaria, the way animals are treated, so to speak, the standard is very low, and that hurt me because in Bulgaria people don't have the means to learn, to actually learn a better way, to have an example. So here I'll introduce you to Sharko, Tangra, and Darko. They have very interesting stories, especially Sharko and Darko, who were rescued from some very difficult circumstances. Sharko was wild, born wild here in the mountains of Lozanets, and people from the city had taken him to train him and use him for work, and he was such a good working horse that the whole town knew about him. And as it often happens, when the herd gets too big, at some point they gather them for slaughter. And they had told me that they were going to gather them, that they were going to slaughter the horses, and I wanted to save at least one. But I was late, and they had already loaded them up, and I begged and begged and begged the people who had loaded them to give me at least one horse, whichever one it was. They were cursing at me, but they opened the van, and one of them came out. It was Sharko, and...
He's living a second life now.
A second life, yes. I saw a place where I could really make a difference, even if it was just at one facility where I worked. I had a few girls I worked with. They would come to me regularly and I would train them, and before that they had been going to that same facility. And they kept coming while I was there. And when I left, one of those girls, I'm not sure if I should say her name, maybe not, but she knows who she is. She wrote me a very, very, very beautiful message, which actually sparked this mission I have now. It was for school. At school, they had asked her to write some kind of essay, and she decided to write it about me and about what she had learned from me. She wrote that a girl, or maybe an angel or something like that, showed her how to turn fear into love. And, you know, I might even cry because I still have it somewhere, because it's so beautiful and it just completely changes everything, life. That message she wrote to me because of that. I saw that I could teach someone about love, and not about fear or tension or hardship, but simply about love. You can show the children in Bulgaria who have the desire to learn how to do that. Lessons that are not just about horses, but about life. With Sharko?
Now, after 3 seasons, what's happening? How many horses are there and what are you doing with them?
After 3 seasons, I actually convinced them otherwise, and I think they've become 12 now. But to be honest with you, I just stopped counting because it's better that way. There are a lot, really a lot. I just don't want too many people to know that I'm here. And now they come from all over the world, from America, from Luxembourg. This year I had clients from Belgium, from Germany, from everywhere, from Ireland. I had friends, you know, who came here just because I am here. You know, to come and see the horses, to see what I do. Because actually, you know, I have rescued all these horses myself, and that's quite a big deal. I don't want to call it an achievement, but it's something interesting to save so many of them and to teach them, you know, to make them so obedient that they can even be around tourists. I just finished my 3rd season, so summer.
So the 3rd summer, what happened? Where are you now? Did things work out? Did everything fail? Or did things take off?
It was really close. It was by a hair. I like to joke that I'm always hanging by a thread, just that my thread is a little bit longer. Because the first year was really tough, and it was basically a trial period where I didn't have the right horses. Some of them weren't even mine. I didn't have good equipment. People didn't know me, and I didn't have much money for everything. But I gave it a try and saw that maybe I could actually do it. And this is Tangra. Tangra is Mommy's little soul. He's a horse that I've raised since he was little. He's the son of a mare I love very much, and he's also a very interesting breed because he's a mix between a Friesian, black in color, and a white Arabian. He's incredibly smart, and he thinks of himself more as a dog than a horse because he's been with me his whole life and only knows what I've taught him, only good things. He doesn't know war, he doesn't know hunger, he doesn't know hardship, he knows nothing but kindness. He has complete trust, absolute trust in people. I keep going with everything I do, always staying committed. Everything I earn from here, I keep putting right back into the animals, making sure they are cared for. And I know that even if I bought more expensive equipment, I would have just saved a few more branches. And together with my mom and dad, we took a big step towards this and bought a little piece of land back then. We bought a warm place, and I really hope now, and I also work on social media. I post videos with the hope of developing this business to such an extent that not only can we save and help the horses I have and train and the people who come to me, but also start spreading some information and resources in Bulgarian that will help people who are in Bulgaria. And actually to learn what I know and what maybe they can't learn, either because they don't know it exists or because they can't understand it in English. So my favorite thing about this area is really that there is both sea and forest, and Stranja is just an incredibly amazing forest because every part of human civilization, you know, at every moment when people have been alive at one point or another, they've passed by Stranja. Not just before the Thracians, after the Thracians themselves, the Romans, I don't know, let's not even mention the Greeks, the Turks there. There's no one who hasn't passed through here. And here, there are so many forgotten corners and graves. I feel like Indiana Jones when I go for walks there. You know, when I go hiking through Stranja, I literally feel like Indiana Jones. Like this happened 1,000 years ago here, and here they found gold. So cool, really cool, right?
Was it really all worth it, all that you truly went through to have a horse? Oh.
That's a tough question because I guess it depends a bit on the person. It's very hard, really, really hard. If you don't care whether it's raining, if it's hot, cold, whatever, if he's hungry and thirsty and doesn't want to come so you can feed and water him, right? You're just the vending machine. But for me, what fills my soul is the fact that I can connect with this animal, which is so close to... For me, honestly, the horse is a higher being in some way. At least that's my opinion, and that's what I've felt from them. Everything I know about life, no matter what it is, everything I know in life, I have learned from horses in one way or another, just from the way they treat each other, the way they interact with nature, and the way they interact with us.
What is the biggest lesson you have learned from horses?
Well, the biggest and most important thing I have learned from horses is a word I can't quite translate. It's like peace, calmness, and giving things the time they need to actually happen. Because horses are never in a hurry for anything. They want to feel everything genuinely, not to rush things like I do after having 2 coffees, you know, trying to speed everything up and do things quickly, when in reality nothing is really... Things are real when you give them the time they need, and that's simply what the horses taught me, and I'm still learning that lesson.
My parents are Bulgarians.
Ah.
You are a Bulgarian, but you were born in Athens and lived in London, and suddenly you show up in Bulgaria. Do you already feel this country as your homeland?
I don't know how many people believe in such things, but the longer I live, the more I start to believe that there are some universal forces. I feel like I had nostalgia for Bulgaria even before I knew what Bulgaria was at all. I always felt like a foreigner. Wherever I was a foreigner. I always thought people were strange. I could never make a connection with anyone. I don't have any long-term friends from before I came to Bulgaria. I don't have any friends from before that, from my childhood. I don't have a single friend or even an acquaintance because I just couldn't make that connection with people. I was searching for some kind of freedom, some kind of lifestyle that I just couldn't find. I traveled around Europe, I was in America, all over Europe, in England, everywhere. And I couldn't find it until I ended up here. And here, suddenly, everything just clicked into place like a puzzle piece because here there are real people. There are incredible places, freedom, a natural way of life, and so many children. Children here really inspire me. In other countries, I've also worked a lot with kids, and they're different. They're different from the children we have here. Here, they still have life in them. Here, they still have something more. That spark in their eyes, you know, that mischievous, lively look. They want to learn, they want to live.